So, today we arrive to the time of Middle Ages. Middle Ages is a critical period. Why? Because the antiquity, which represented a high level of civilization. Look at, for example, size of Rome, population of Rome, number of inhabitants of Rome, 1.5 million people. European civilization never reached the same level before Industrial Revolution. Therefore, past 2,000 years when a European civilization was able to perform same level in London, then reached in the time of Roman Empire. Okay, therefore the Middle Age, other name of Middle Age is a Dark Age. A Dark Age. Why? Because this was an age of collapse of civilization. For example, there is a special category of Latin language. A Latin language is a classical Latin, it's a correct version of the Latin. But the Middle Age is medieval Latin, it's unbelievable, destroyed and deteriorated version of the Latin. Not only civilization, but the material culture is collapsed. If we are looking, for example, a demographical trajectory of Europe, we can follow the next trajectory. This is the 2nd century Anno Domini, 6th century and the 10th century and the 14th century. Population of Europe, estimated population of Europe, 50 million and 100 million. In the 2nd century, this was the heyday of Roman Empire, a European population reached 50 million. After, on the time of Age of Migration, population of Europe decreased approximately 20 million. Therefore, 30 million people disappeared, killed and slowed in passive demographical reconstruction, and a lot of people, a lot of folks disappeared physically from Europe. And after, this was the deepest point of the Age of Migration. This is a real dark age, real dark age. You can imagine Europe, a huge forest with small clear area, but huge forest. This is the age of white and the dark early Middle Ages. To the 10th century, reconstructed Europe, reorganized agriculture, reorganized the state, and somehow reconstruct the frame, physical and economic frame of recovery. And to the 13th century, Europe reached approximately 90 million. This is the demographical trajectory of Europe in the early Middle Ages. But look at a local crisis and the local event. The background of the background of demographical reconstruction, the next one. On the last 2,000 years, we can identify 5 ages of environmental and climate change. Roman Empire between 50 before Christ and 40 Anno Domini, it was a warm period. It's named a Roman climate optimum. The next one, between the 4th to the 9th century, this was the cold period. And, for example, in the Near East, Plato, dry period. In the Middle Ages, high Middle Ages, we can identify a medieval climate optimum, warm period. This is the age of Vikings, when discovered Iceland, Greenland, and reached even a northern part of America. And the last closed climate period, named Little Ice Age. Little Ice Age started in the 14th century and closed at the turn of 19th and the 20th century. Why interesting? Because Little Ice Age was the coldest period whole of the human civilization. For example, a Thames in London and the Seine in Paris frozen over during winter time, frozen over, and organized fair on the ice surface. And recently, we are living in the recent global warming. It's quite unique, a recent global warming. Why? Because if we follow the trajectory of change of climate, probably without industrial evolution, should be warm the climate. But in the modern time, there is a interference, two processes, strength one to other. Increase, there is a natural warming, but carbon dioxide, industrial activity, increase the speed of warming. Therefore, never happened before similar situation. Anthropogenic and the natural process strengthen one to other. Okay, look at the early modern time. One of the interesting story, a birth of Islam, a birth of Muslim world. Why? Because a birth of Muslim world unfolded in the 6th and mainly in the 7th century. Look at the place. Look at the place. The place of the birth of Islam, this is the Arabian Peninsula. If we are looking at Arabian Peninsula, we can separate different physical area. Look at it. This is the Arabian Peninsula. Sorry. This is the Persian Gulf or Arabic Gulf, it depends on the point of view and the geographical background. And this is the Red Sea. And if we are looking at Arabian Peninsula, the majority of Arabian Peninsula desert area, rocky and sandy desert area. How can survive the local population in this not so friendly environment? With help of domestication of camel. You know, this is a camel. Here, there is a camel. And very interesting, the camel able to survive almost each situation. For example, on the time of the Second World War, the second longest city siege was the siege of Budapest, capital of Hungary. 100 days long siege. In the zoo of Budapest, only 2 animals survived. A camel, and somebody know which was the other one?
So the other time, hippo. The hippo?
Hippopotamus. Very surprising. It's possible I told you. No? This story? A hippopotamus. You know which is the hippopotamus. This is the African animal. Why? Because it's Budapest located a tectonic line. Therefore, a natural warm well fed into the basin of hippopotamus. And the hippopotamus is a very dangerous animal. There are much more hippopotamus accidents recently in Africa than lion and any other predators. Okay, but the camel able to survive. But carrying capacity of desert area, it's very moderate, very moderate. Therefore, density of population quite low. Okay, this is the desert area. And the second one, it's Yemen. You know, this is a country. And the civilization unit. And somebody know which is the capital of Yemen? Aden. Why so important? If we are reading the Bible, there is a very important place. Garden Eden. Garden Eden came from the name of Adam. Why? Because majority of Arabian Peninsula, even the Near East, desert and semi-desert area. But here, in the area of Yemen, there is a monsoon, you know, monsoon rain. Therefore, exceptionally, in this area unfolded irrigation-based agriculture. It's a very rich area, very rich area. You know the name of Queen Shaba. Queen Shaba, who met with Solomon, King Solomon, in the Bible, biblical story, in the Christian biblical story. Why is so important? Because according to legend, Shaba was pregnant from Solomon. Therefore, somehow, the bloodline of Jews survived in Arabian Peninsula. It's a legendary story. But for us, very interesting. Why? Because the contemporaries, Yemen area, named Arabia Felix. Arabia Felix. Sorry, Felix. What means Latin Felix? Happy. It's a happy Arabia. Why? Because the life expectancy and the lifestyle and the carrying capacity so high compared with the desert area that for the desert people, this is the happy country, the best place one can imagine. Moreover, in this area, the happy Arabia Felix, produce frankincense. You know which is the frankincense. There is a burner. There is a special smelt for Hungarian students. It's named tömjén. For example, in the Christian pray, there is a frankincense burner. Take to the fire frankincense. Frankincense produced from pine. The bark of the pine cut, and there is an immune reaction. It's covering the hurted part of the bark and produce this kind of material. It's dry on the sun and finally became a luxury smelt. It's how the name is burner. It's a burn and there is a very sweet smell. Recently, for example, in the Roman Catholic Church, used for prayer. There is a bowl and move right to left, and burn the frankincense. Why so important? Because in the contemporary world existed three international long-distance trade. The first one, Silk trade, the Great Silk Road from China to any part of the world. The second one, a spice road, the spice trade from the island of Indian Ocean to everywhere. Nutmeg and pepper and cinnamon and so and so. This is the second one. And the third one, a frankincense road, which started from Arabia Felix and Eritrea. It's a Horn of Africa. This is the area, it's a natural area of frankincense. Of course, like in the case of Great Silk Road, like on the case of spices, not only the frankincense or spice or silk transported, any others, but the most important products, silk, spice, and the frankincense were. Okay, how organized the economy of Arabian Peninsula? The people who lived in this area, the semi-desert area, and domesticated the camel, organized a local animal husbandry. But these nomadic people participated international road of frankincense. How? Offer the animal, the transporting animals, and the guards for the caravans. And a lot of small and larger cities participated in the caravan routes of frankincense, like Mecca, like Medina, like Taif, a lot of cities, classical caravan city. This is the structure of economy. A desert area with nomadic people, Arabia Felix with irrigation economic, and the frankincense line. This is the economic structure. But starting in the 6th century, a dry period, decreased the precipitation. Its border area, like Arabian Peninsula, it's very striking if the precipitation decrease. Decrease the precipitation, the monsoon rain, decrease the precipitation in the semi-desert area, and the classical ecosystem fell to the crisis, which is the normal reaction the nomadic people. Raiding to Syria and raiding to Egypt. Compensate somehow the consequence of the crisis, which was the reaction of the contemporary great power. Which are the great power? Persia and the Byzantine Empire. Both great power tried to close the boundary onto the direction of Arabian Peninsula. A Persian Empire organized a buffer state, you know this is the buffer state, and the Byzantine Empire, other one, two buffer states. The function of the buffer state is closing Arabian Peninsula, and the military campaign to the direction of Syria and Egypt closed. This situation, you know, this is the closed place, Arabian Peninsula. It's named in the history a closed battle situation. Increased the tension inside of the Arabian Peninsula, increased, but no way out. In this situation, the crisis became stronger and deeper and deeper and deeper, decade by decade. In this situation, a lot of political leaders and religious leaders appear and said, I know the solution for the crisis. And who was the most successful? Muhammad. And look at the program of Muhammad to the crisis. The first one, 5 pillars of Islam. You know much better, I suppose, than me, but it's repeat. The first one, it's a monotheism, a shahada. I testify that there are none worthy of worship except God, and I testify that Muhammad is the messenger of God. Very interesting. Look at the differences between the New Testament and the story of Jesus. Who is Jesus? Son of God. Muhammad declared only messenger of God, not a son of God, messenger. Differences. Look at the second one, Salah, ritual prayer which must perform 5 times per day. In the Christian heritage, how many times necessary to pray? In the Muslim, 5 times. In the Christian, yeah, recently we are a hobby Christian. It's only once a week, it's possible. But in the traditional time, how many times per day, you know?
I don't know, but also you said last time.
4 times. 4 times. Not so great differences, because if somebody would like to take the connection to the spiritual life, necessary to take a practice. Yeah, because somehow somebody played a sport, some kind of the sport, no? Because in the sport, necessary to train the body. Because, for example, I play even recently for football team, and necessary to learn and educate the body for spontaneous automatic reaction. A little bit this is the same in the spiritual dimension. Necessary to repeat without decision, would able to somehow make the contact. Without regular repetition, no chance for that. Okay. Zakat, almsgiving. Why so important? Because Muhammad was a poor people, a poor guy. His father died not so much after his birth, and his mother before the 10th, 7 or 8, I don't know exactly the biography, but quite early even. And he became a self-made man, each meaning. Therefore, he became a trade, how the name is a trade employees in caravans, and later, step by step, step up on the ladder of hierarchy of enterprises, and finally, with help of successful marriage. It's very interesting, the marriage of Muhammad. You know this story? His first wife was older than Muhammad. He was an owner. He was how the name is, widow. He was a widow, and after death of his husband, the second husband of her was a Muhammad. And Muhammad, with help of successful marriage, became a rich man. A rich man. Okay. But very interesting, in the 7th century, human law of women increased very much by Muslim reform of Muslim legal system. Therefore, in the 7th century condition, Muhammad was a real feminist people. But recently, it's a different perspective. But according to norm of the 7th century, for example, the Muslim law accepted the law of women for hearing. It's before that, women were in the barbarian, not barbarian, which was the name of nomadic people lived in Arabian Peninsula. Which name? Not Berber, because Berbers lived in northern part of Africa. Bedouin, sorry. A Bedouin people. You know, it's Bedouins. Bedouins is a people who are lived in the Arabian Peninsula with nomadic lifestyle. Okay, he was a poor people. Therefore, for him was very important supporting the poor member of community. The next one, soul. It's Arabic terms, Arabic word. Fasting during the month of Ramadan. And finally, Hajj, pilgrimage to the city of Mecca. According to your opinion, which pillar the most important for militarizing of the Muslim community? Which is the most important for militarizing, increase the military power? Because a jihad is a marginal, not a pillar of Islam. Salah. Why? Do you have military practice? No? Unfortunately or unfortunately, I participated for 1 year in the Hungarian army service, and it was very surprising. The most important to be a soldier, not the education for running or jump or shooting, no. Discipline. The people became disciplined. And the 5 times pray increased the discipline mentality. The people perform the same day by day by day by day. Therefore, the 5 times pray discipline the people, organize the feeling of community and discipline. Okay, look at the peculiarities. Islam fraternity. Why so important? Because if we are looking at nomadic people, very important the role blood revenge. The people kill the father one and mother one. It's a very confused situation. And the Islam fraternity mean if somebody became follower of Islam, cancel. Everything cancel. Everything. It's quite similar than declared by Jesus Christ, when one story told to his mother that my word and my mother and father and my brother and sister is the member of my community. Almost the same like Islam fraternity. Okay, unity, a laical and ecclesiastical power. If we are looking at European history, in the European history there is a pope and a king or emperor. Pope and how the name is, the leader of church, Roman Catholic Church, and emperor, official leader of empire. Therefore, no, on the same hand was the ecclesiastical power and the real legal power. It's quite great advantage in the European history, because in the situation of conflict, if there is a conflict with the Pope, escape to the Emperor. There is a conflict with the Emperor, escape to the Pope. Therefore, it's a free option. There is a possibility of free option. In the case of Muslim world, the El Khalifa, the governor, after the death of Muhammad, was the same person. Leader of Islam and the leader of empire was the same person. Therefore, no chance for using different powers, a political and ecclesiastical powers. Okay, and jihad. Sometimes it's named the sixth pillar of Islam, but really not a pillar. It's it's peculiar. And very important division, a greater jihad and a lesser jihad. The greater jihad, it's a self-perfection, working on the physical, mental, and the spiritual condition of person inside a greater jihad. And the lesser jihad, the military, it's a military practice, warfare. Okay, if we are looking at the Islamic world, quite early form after the death of not so good the quality of this beamer, but this is the Mediterranean Sea, Iberian Peninsula, northern part of Africa, Near East, and Arabian Peninsula, and Persian area, and boundary until the boundary of China. Good. Okay, this is the Muslim. This is the form of Islam, and the one important factor of the form of Islam played a closed battle situation, which made by drought of the 7th century. Okay, look at the Maya civilization. Probably you know the history of the Mayas. Maya lived in the Central America. And the Maya civilization divided three ages: the pre-classical period, a classical period, majority of the buildings and the monuments we know from the classical period, and the post-classical period. This was the area of Maya civilization. This is the Yucatan Peninsula, it's possible. You know, it's a Mexican Gulf. And we can see two parts had on the Maya civilization: mountain area and the plain area. Good. It's more detailed: northern lowland, southern lowland, and the highland area. Maya calendar started 3117 before Christ. This is, according to legend, this is the date of foundation of first Maya settlements. This is the Maya monuments and the Maya writing signs and the Maya numbers. Which is the most important in the Maya numbers? Introduced one number which didn't know even the Phoenician, the Greek or Roman Empire, the 01. Unbelievable invention. Because Arabic mathematician introduced the 0 only in the 6th century Anno Domini. And the Maya mathematician, before Christ even, introduced the 0. It's quite unique abstraction, because in the for example, it's numbers of Greek and Roman civilization had +1 and the -1. But between these number, it's a nothing. It's plus or minus. And the Maya mathematician introduced the 0. Therefore, to field the Maya civilization, it's overtook whole of the global civilization, astronomy. It's a science of stars and planets, and the mathematics, not by chance. But in the battlefields, it's not enough. Because the Maya civilization lived in the Copper Age. The copper was the highest level of metal which were able to make. And a Maya civilization, a classical Maya age, fell into the crisis. Drought crisis, like in the case of Islam, the Muslim civilization. The largest cities in the tropical area, it's Tikal, Paneng, Kopan. Recently, we can find the ruins of these cities in the tropical forest. But in this period, the classical Maya age domesticated the corns, the potatoes, bean, pumpkin, pepper, chili, dog, turkey, llama, vicuña pig. It's quite civilized world. And the population which lived in these cities changed between 50,000 and 100,000. Large cities. It's a city, real city-state. But very interesting, it's possible you remember the theory of Toynbee. In the last week I spoke about. Challenge, answer. A drought, which happened in Arabian Peninsula, was a challenge. And the Muhammad found a good answer for the challenge. But the Maya case of Maya civilization, it's opposite. It's basically different. The local elite wasn't able and weren't able to find good answer. Why? Because Maya civilization constructed the step pyramids, you know, like Egyptian pyramid, but the step pyramids, it's able to walk to the top of the pyramid. And the Maya civilization and the Maya leader imagined that had to apply the technology two directions, the physical direction and the ecclesiastical or spiritual direction. And the step pyramids, which was a real temple, offer for the god or gods, because it's a larger pantheon of gods and goddess. And started a drought in this area, which is the reaction. Large population, and everybody agreed this is punishment of God. Therefore, started a huge program, construct new pyramids. And if we are looking at rational approach, it was somehow of devastation of human power. Therefore, constructed new pyramid, decreased the carrying capacity and the success of harvest. Constructed new pyramids, expired the human power, and started a civil war. And finally, increased the number of pyramids, decreased the success of harvest, and finally, whole of the civilization burned down a large civil wars. And very interesting, if you see, for example, National Geographic movies reconstructed with the technology of NCIS. Which use the police technology for reconstruct the place of the crime, and reconstructed how destroyed the city civil war, how killed the political leader of the city, how burned down the temples and the pyramids, and how collapsed all of the civilization. Why? Because a Maya elite strengthened and increased the speed of ecclesiastical or spiritual technology. It's a bad answer. It's a not real answer for this situation. Okay. Maya population, this is the checklist of the reaction. Maya population exceeded the carrying capacity. Climate change, environmental disaster, drought, exhaustion of agricultural potential, overhunting of megafauna, fortification of spiritual technology. Maya priests began to the construction of the new great temple, and this is the show well the dimension of the collapse of Maya civilization before the civil war period. 21 million and only 4 million. Not everybody killed, but large wave of emigration decreased the local population. Okay, look at the next one, the next age, the Viking period. Probably you know the Vikings lived in the Scandinavian area. There were 3 types of the Vikings: Danish Vikings, Norwegian Viking, and the Swedish Viking. If we can imagine age of Europe and the landscape of Europe on the age of Viking, it's a huge forest area. And self-consuming societies live in different parts of Europe. Only one exceptional area, a Viking area. Vikings, there is a good series I suggest to you, quite good. It's a Vikings. This is the title of, I remember, HBO series or Netflix, I don't know. But it's a good series. And show how were able the Vikings discover in the dark Middle Ages whole of the Europe. Constructed a small, quite a moderate size ships and sailed on the coastal area of Atlantic Ocean through the the Gibraltar Strait, sailed to Constantinople, capital of Byzantine Empire, and other direction on the great Russian rivers sailed to the Black Sea and arrived to the Constantinople. It's traveled whole of the boundary of Europe, and if overpopulated from local people, it's raided and it's plundered, raid and plunder, and if smaller number, then the local population behave like a trader, like a merchant. Anyway, it's somehow activated the transport and trade whole of Europe. And the age of Vikings, it's overlap a warm period. You remember, medieval warm period. And Vikings followed the increase the ecosystem of Europe, increased to northward. Not the Vikings were so strong that was able to discover to Iceland and Greenland, but the climate and the physical environment changed and became century by century similar to Scandinavia. Moreover, very important, in the case of northern Atlantic area, there are a lot of small islands. Not necessarily sailing for weeks and months on the ocean, but sail from island to island. And finally arrive to Iceland and later Greenland and travel to Americas. According to legend, the first sailor who discovered the way to the Iceland are Irish monks. There is a legend about the St. Brendan who sailed to the Vikings. It's possible not true, but it's Irish people are very proud to the St. Brendan. But the real people who conquered Iceland and Greenland were Viking warriors. Vikings, according to lifestyle, they were peasant and dominated by animal husbandry, and the most important estate is the grazing land for cows and the cattle. And there are very interesting, how the name is, series of gods. For example, recently the Marvel movie, Marvel, this is the studio of United States, it's California, using how the name is, it's a Teutonic pantheon of gods and goddess. And one of the main god, somebody know his name? Odin. Odin. This is the god of war. Which is the peculiarity of the Odin? Only there is one eye. Because all the other eye offer for wisdom. Change to the wisdom. Okay. And there is a horse of the Odin with 8 legs. In the fairy tales, it's quite typical. A horse who more legs than the normal horse. And this is the scene of recent, how the name is, it's a play of war which organized like a theater in Sweden. Okay, it's quite aggressive and quite cruel people, but the physical environment behind the Vikings, it's a quite harsh environment. This is the picture about a Viking ship. A normal size of the Viking ship is 20 to 30 meters and very easy to navigate everywhere. Some other reconstruction, a contemporary historical picture, and in Oslo, in capital of Norway, there is a museum of navigation of Vikings. Okay? The most famous people who played a crucial role in the discovery of Vikings, Durand. Why? Because it's a red-blooded and red hair. And he discovered Greenland. Very interesting, the story of Durand. His father killed somebody in Norway. He's a Norwegian Viking. Therefore, his family escaped to Iceland. His family lived in Iceland and killed somebody. It's a Viking life, killing each other. It's a normal element of the life. Therefore, Durand had to escape from Iceland, and he had information that northward from Iceland there is another island, and sailed to Greenland, no name on that time, and he named to Greenland. It's very surprising. Why? If we are looking Iceland, it's a cold and icy area, and the place northward from Iceland named to Greenland. Why? Because this was one of the most successful application of marketing. Why? Nobody knows this place, only Durand and his family and his friends. No any other. But proliferated the information in the Viking area that there is a new place, it's a green and very rich area. And the people who sold everything in Norway or Denmark or Iceland and sailed to the Greenland, very difficult to turn back. Therefore, this is a marketing. It's a happy place. It's no true. It was a very hard and icy and cold area, but proliferated the information, and finally, on the heyday of Greenland, lived 5,000 people in Greenland. And occupation a new area, like in the economy, a pyramid game. The people who arrive later pay fee to the founder. And if increase the number under the top, increase the income. It's very, very clever. And the next person the son of Erik Durand, Leif Erikson, because the naming in the Scandinavian custom, it's first name, family name, and the name of father. Therefore, Leif, this is the first name, and he was the son of Erik Durand, Erikson, Leif Erikson. And he discovered northern part of America. And which verified, because were done in the saga. You know which is the saga. It's a story of Viking history. Like, for example, chronicles, somehow Viking chronicles. And on the saga of Leif Erikson, wrote down that Leif is discovered, other nickname was Lucky Leif, because not only stayed to North America, but successfully turned back to Greenland. And he discovered a new area, but nobody believed it really was America. But finally, in Newfoundland, found the place of Vikings, with buildings, and the long buildings. This was a typical headquarter of Vikings when discovered a new place, and some element of the Viking ships. This is the sculpture of Leif Erikson in Washington. Good. Look at the next story, and it's possible this is the final story today, a Hungarian conquest. A Hungarian, like for example Bedouins in Arabian Peninsula, were a nomadic people. Which is the nomadism? How we can describe the nomadism? Yeah, you remember this story. First, solving the situation with traditional tools. Second, innovation. And the third, quotas. A Hungarian tribes arrived to Carpathian Basin from Ural Mountains. Quite a long journey. But about the nomadism, necessary to tell some information. No info. Okay, I draw. How functions nomadism? To the nomadism, there are, in Euro-Asian nomadism, there are two basic animals. Horse, it's riding, and the sheep. Horse and sheep. Why? Because on the real steppe area, no trees, only grass. The cattle, animal of park forest area. Because the cattle, much higher, able to graze not only the grass, but the leaves of bushes and the trees. Okay, nomadism developed in Eurasia. If we are looking at Eurasia, it's a huge continent, and great advantage of Eurasia, a long parallel zone of vegetation. This is the tundra area. It's a cold steppe area on the icy. And the next one, a pine area, a pine vegetation. And the next one, a frondiferous forest area, and the steppe area. Steppe area, why so important in the evolution of Eurasia? Because innovations which invented in China or Europe move very quickly, one to other. There is a technological interaction. Look at, for example, Maya civilization. Maya civilization, no chance for proliferate the innovation because it's very narrow area. If we are looking northward, basically different climate, basically different environmental condition. Therefore, innovation of Maya civilization not able to proliferate in America because quite narrow area. And the northward or southward, basically different physical condition. Look at Eurasia. innovate something in China, for example gunpowder, for example silk, on the steppe corridor, moved, go and back. Okay, look at the steppe corridor. In the steppe corridor developed nomadism. Nomadism, one pillar, animal husbandry. But it's a regular system, which is the peculiarity of the nomadism. In the nomadic area, organized two poles are winter settlement and the summer settlement. On the two poles, two corners of the steppe area, the grazing land area. And which is the lifestyle of nomadic people? It's a grazing up, grazing back. Start to wandering northward on the spring area and turn back in the late summer area. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And which is the most important key factor? The grazing land and the place for drinking of animal. Because, for example, Hungarian tribes, 100,000 people, had 10 million animals. For 10 million animals, necessary to organize huge quantity of drinking water. The best place are great rivers, like Dnieper, like Volga River, walking up and down, because it's very close. But some other situation necessary to construct wells. There is a special fingerprints of, I don't know the English name, but it's possible you see, you saw this kind of the wells. There is a fence of the wells, and it's a balanced. You know this kind of the, in Hungarian language, I don't know, it's gémeskút. But this kind of the well is distributed from Mongolia to the Carpathian Basin. Why? Because it's balancing, and somehow it's a mechanical construction, very sensible mechanical construction, but with help of this kind of the well, very easy to drink huge number of animals. Therefore, if you would like to follow the nomadism, the fingerprint of nomadism, this kind of well. Okay, turn back to the story of Hungarian tribes. Arrived to the Carpathian Basin. Why so critical? Because Hungarian tribes arrived to the Carpathian Basin. Carpathian Basin, it's a central, located to this Europe. Located to the Central European Basin area, Czech Basin, Vienna Basin, and the Carpathian Basin. Which is the problem with the Carpathian Basin? Too small. Hungarian tribes arrived from Eurasian steppe area, almost 1 million square kilometer. Carpathian Basin, only 1/3 of the former homeland area. Moreover, only half of this area able for nomadism, because it's a mountain area, obviously not able for, it's a challenge situation. Arrive a new place, but not optimal for nomadism. Which is the solution? Yeah, this is a climate and environmental condition. This is an animation. It's moving the Hungarian tribes, Bulgaria, military campaign, and finally arrive to Carpathian Basin. Okay? A former homeland, Etelköz, between Don and Dnieper, recently in this area organized a war between Ukraine and Russia. A little bit less than 1 million square kilometer grazing land. In the Hungarian Carpathian Basin, only half grazing land had. It's a challenge situation. Therefore, the Hungarian tribes arrived to the Carpathian Basin, new place, new situation. necessary to find answer. The first answer, the classical answer, raiding. Like the Bedouins in the case of Arabian Peninsula, raided Syrian civilization and the Egyptian cities. Hungarian raided, like Bedouins or any other nomadist people. It's somehow they were
mercenaries. 1 year on the side of Bavarian prince, other side on the side of Czech kings, Czech king, changed year by year like mercenaries position. Moreover, try to find way out, exploration and new wandering routes. Not by chance, Hungarian tribes, after arrived to the Carpathian Basin, moved to the direction of northern part of Italy. Because the next large plain area, it's a plain of Po River, located here. It's much smaller, therefore turn back and left here. Okay, the second answer, named a meadow transhumation. This is the inner part of the Carpathian Basin. It's a plain area. You can see this is the Danube River and a Tisa River. Why interesting? Because you can see a gray area. It's a water-covered area. With horses and with sheep, a water-covered area not usable. It's useless area. But they learned, it's a second type answer, innovation, from the local people, that it's maybe possible to use very efficiently. How and why? If we are looking at Carpathian Basin or Tisa River, there are 3 waves of flood. The first one in March, icy flood, when snow cover in the mountain area melted and felt and flowed the water into the river. March, icy flood. The second one, a green flood in June. This is the maximum of precipitation. And the third one, flood in October. It's a Mediterranean effect. Why so important? 3 times in the Carpathian Basin had and recently has a flood. Look at a plain area. In the plain area, we can distinguish 3 levels. A bed of river continuously underwater. Floodplain area underwater on the time of flood. And the floodless area. And probably from local people who lived before the Hungarian arrived to here, learn which is the good solution. Locate the settlement, the villages and the cities on the edge of floodless area. No flood danger. Look at here. Floodless area. Why? Nobody like if the water flowing into the buildings. Nobody. And the floodplain area on the time of flood underwater, on the dry period it's open. Therefore, organized a very special grazing system. Flood period, the herd, the animal, moved to the floodless area. Over the flood, turn back. New flood, left the floodplain area. Why is so important? Because the flood, not only water, but the floating, for example, plants floating, how the name is, soils, recover the fertility of the floodplain area. Therefore, not only once might use grazing land, but 3 times. Therefore, a floodplain area carrying capacity, if somebody able to use up, down, regularly, learn the living style and the ecosystem nature, able to use 3 times more animals than any other places of the Carpathian Basin. Therefore, a meadow transformation was a great innovation. And the second one, a Hungarian tribes, a Hungarian state organized a drainage system, a channel network in the Carpathian Basin. Why so important? Because in the Carpathian Basin there are 2 problems with the water. Too much or not enough. Too much or not enough. Therefore, 2 systems had to organize for drainage of water-covered area or irrigation system, both. And in the 11th and the 12th century, the new royal power organized this system. Why? Because majority of state was on the ownership of king. Two-thirds of state, the landscape, the territory, was in direct ownership of king. Direct ownership. Therefore, the royal system organized not only the taxes and fees collecting network, but a channel system too. Okay, which were the functions? Drainage of water-covered area, decrease of flood, danger, water retention. It's because recently, in the time of global warming, one of the most important problems that the water it's flowing down very quickly. And recently, the water retention, it's slowing down the flowing of the water. It's a key goal of the modern water regulation system. Separation plant farming and animal husbandry and military defense. Because the cheapest one, it's took underwater large area and the enemy is not able to move inside of the city. Okay, it's not important. Types of the channels. And finally, the final solution for the problem of small area introduction of feudal agriculture. Why so important? Because if we are looking carrying capacity of nomadism, 1 unit, and carrying capacity of plant farming, a feudal system, 5. Therefore, not the size of the country increased, but changed the subsistence system, which much more efficient than the traditional animal husbandry. Okay. Okay, the 12th question I will cancel because it's not enough time. On the essays, the 12th question, how happened and what kind of consequence did the medieval agricultural revolution, because it's a little bit half hours long material and almost the time expired. Good. Anyway, I loaded up the date of exam to the Neptune system. You can register it, and I remember to December 4 occasion you will, and of course in January I will register the occasion of the exam. Similarly, you can take in CoSpace, and if you would like to repeat exam, I will record the best grade for you. Okay, I enjoyed this course like normally because it's possible. I told to you that my first boss in my first workplace told to us that for researcher career necessary bad characteristics, for example the shelfishness. Shelfishness, you know which is the shelfishness. I would like to enjoy the life for me, and sometimes I discuss about the nature of the student with my colleagues, and
my colleagues sometimes very pessimistic that the students don't would like to participate in the communication, and in my case it's no problem. I enjoy, it's enough to me. Okay, have a nice evening for you, and we will meet somewhere, somehow.
Thank you, bye.